Hey, John. I guess maybe we would be open for a few questions if you are. Does anybody have any questions? The information will be online. There are some press releases on the corner of the table. If you go to sdgculture.ca, you will find the plan there tomorrow morning, most likely late tonight. And what we would hope is that you will use the opportunity to go through it. There's 81 pages of information, and a lot more based on the recommendations that are listed there. If there are any questions, this is a good time, councillors. Elaine?
I really like where this is going, obviously. The development of a regional art center, not gallery. And I like the acknowledged bias on your part, the interest in history, and your desire to preserve existing facilities. But having said that, I'm wondering why some existing facilities don't show up there. We have two public galleries in Farwell, and I hold membership cards that I paid for both of them, that's the Corridor and the Regional Art Gallery, but not listed. And I think every municipality here has at least one museum, like the Norwesters Museum and our own Farwell Jail. We've got museums that weren't listed. And you did say you're interested in preserving existing galleries, so I'd always be more comfortable if I actually saw them listed. And I'm wondering what the thinking is in not having listed them.
Clarification for me, you said not listed in the PowerPoint presentation?
Yes, but you listed the municipalities with their facilities. You mentioned like City of Cornwall, Arts and Rec Department.
Yeah, that's more actually a function, the roles and responsibilities, so it's not buildings. All of the museums and all of the historic buildings should be in our cultural database. So that's obviously not something that is brought out here.
So they might be on the map, for example.
They would be on the map. And I say that and my fingers are slightly crossed, you see, because
What's your email?
there is about 500 or so entries. And this is my point, is that, you know, the ability to drop the ball on just the inventory is just, it's a daily thing. So they should be on there. We'll check. But in relation to all the other assets as well, that's why our immediate step is we need to continue to work on the GIS mapping so that we make sure we captured everything.
You're supposed to be up here.
It's better to listen from back here, actually. It is.
I like that jacket.
I was really interested in hearing about how many people showed up to participate in the public consultation. And a lot of people like to discourage funding of the arts by saying that it's hard to get artistic communities to work together. So I'm wondering if you got a sense, and it feels like you did, that you got a sense that everybody was on the same page around the creation of a facility, and if that's where people came together. And if they didn't come together, where, you know, how far apart are the artistic communities?
That's a great question. I think our sense of it is that there is a common agreement that there is a need for some level of improved coordination, and certainly a facility and access to a facility would be of great interest. I think there are differences between groups in terms of perhaps the level of frustration as well as the level of organisation, and there are a number of different viewpoints. There are individuals, and then there are, you know, entities that have been created to promote the arts. And so I think the challenge is we had 2 hours each night to speak to groups. I think part of the discussions about the regional arts centre model, and particularly its mandate, is to go back out in a selected way and talk to some of those groups to to get a bit more precision as to what it is that they see, and particularly in terms of timeline as well. You know, the development of an arts and culture centre is a capital planning exercise, and before that, it's a business planning exercise and a funding exercise. And so we need to understand, I think everyone needs to understand that it is an incremental process to get a centre off the ground. That's why the Regional Arts Council is that it's not an interim step, but it's the first step of coordination. The Arts Centre comes a little bit later. Now, it could happen the other way around. Who knows? If a building became available and suddenly there was new stimulus funding from government, maybe things would change. But just to sort of cut to the chase on the arts side is, yes, certainly some consensus among the groups is that they need a centralized facility. And the next step is to drill down a bit further and ask them exactly what that means in terms of their own organizational planning.
Anybody else? Way at the back. Mesdames et messieurs, pendant que Madame s'approche, j'aimerais tous vous remercier de votre coopération dans les derniers mois et puis vous assurer que le plan va être sur le website dans les 2 langues officielles. Et puis si vous avez des questions en français, je vais les vous.
I'm just wondering to what point have you, or are you planning on having a coordinator? Because just lately we've been talking, and when I asked the question, who's the coordinator that tells you what's going on in SD&G in Cornwall? And some people have told me to go to the city. Some people have told me to go to Lauren Taillon, who's leisure and recreation. But in general, if I'm coming into town and I live in town and I don't even know all the activities that are going on, then how can I promote them? I worked in retail for some 30 years, and my last 22 years at the corner of 2nd and Pitt, so I promoted tourism there, but everybody else in the store would say, no, there's nothing going on in Cornwall, go somewhere else. So the education has to be in the retail also, to educate the people that live here of what we have, what's going on, but we need a person that's going to do that mapping, and that's very, very important to keeping your tourism here. Yeah.
Thank you. I think that's a fantastic point, and I didn't make it, but I believe it is in our report. The idea of local ambassadors, and you see a lot of municipalities have local ambassador programs to promote tourism. So they can be local entrepreneurs, they can be retailers, they can be local Girl Guides and Boy Scouts. It can be anything, but the ambassadors are people that can promote the city. And so I think that is a very good observation. Thank you. As it relates to the coordinator, I think you can see where we're headed. Certainly there needs to be a central staff position, but I think rather than do it ad hoc and have someone who's funded, by the city of Cornwall or on a temporary contract basis from some other means, and then they would disappear if the funding ran out. I think that's what we've asked each municipality to hopefully be able to look at this document and agree a statement of principles, and from that, then agree to either fund a study or a staff position or somebody who can take the reins of working to develop that coordinator role through a regional arts council. There are a number of people, obviously, who are involved in coordination at present, so the other aspect would be a very sort of expert steering committee of people who would be involved in perhaps putting some more concrete foundations in place in the interim. I'm talking about over the next 6 months. I think you'd want to have a regional arts council in place, within 12 months. That would be the idea.
Monsieur Rivet.
Hi, I'm with the Seaway Cultural Arts Committee, and part of our mandate is to promote arts in Cornwall. as well as try and build a cultural arts center. Excuse me. Made for artists, run by artists, and hopefully, used by artists all over the region. I think it's important, and I want to put council on notice that all artists try to be polled and see what they need to get our proper needs met from, all aspects, because that's one thing that I think we dropped the ball in the past. We haven't been able to help as many people as we can, and that's what we need to do, is build a facility that will encourage artists to become artists, and also to nurture tech talents. So I hope that council's on record to know that we're here to help in the process. We've done some research, and we are going to do some more, and we're very excited about our findings, and we want to tell the council that we're ready to share our information with them. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rivera.
Thank you. Yes, and I just wanted to make that point as well. I've been speaking from the perspective of the study process and the fact that we now need to go through a process of having the individual councils of the municipalities look at this document in the detail that they need to, and give everyone the time to do that. But the active groups in the community that have done their own research and their homework and have their ideas, I think they need to be at the table as soon as possible on that. And so these recommendations about who we put together to create a regional arts council, those are the kinds of questions. Who do you put on the committee that I think we need to would need to be discussed in some detail?
Nicole Geoffrion du Centre culturel des Trois-Petits à Alexandria. Je vais vous parler en français parce que c'est plus facile pour moi de m'exprimer. Si j'ai bien compris, la manière que je peux voir, c'est qu'au bout de ligne, ce serait d'avoir un centre régional, je dirais comme Cornwall, qui aurait un centre là-bas de culture. Mais personnellement, je ne vois pas ce que ça a à faire avec Alexandria et le Nord. Chaque région a sa culture, a ses choses. Les gens ne partiront pas d'Alexandria pour se rendre à Cornwall. Peut-être que je n'ai pas bien compris le bout de ligne de ça, mais je pense que c'est peut-être beau d'avoir quelque chose à Cornwall, mais chaque région chaque ville ou canton a ses choses, puis on en veut, nous autres aussi. Le centre régional pourrait être à Alexandria aussi. C'est notre choix.
I think the question was the idea of having a regional center, not necessarily in Cornwall. What happens if it is in Cornwall, and what will people from Alexandria and the northern areas do? And I think maybe you can address that and tell us why the approach that you've taken and what it really means as considered to where it's supposed to be looking.
Well, thanks for the question. I think you raised a good point. And I would be lying to you if I said I had the answer for the reality of the geography of SD&G. It is a huge geographic area, and there are significant differences in terms of people's orientation to Cornwall in the south and to Ottawa in the north and elsewhere, of course. But at the same time, we've heard loud and clear, and we certainly, from a business planning point of view, see the merit in a single regional centre. So that truth, or that reality, I shouldn't say truth, that opinion from us shouldn't be lost, even though there are significant challenges to things like the location decision. And that's why we're not trying to sort of fob it off and say, well, you need to have satellites and we can promise things that might not occur. I think it's a genuine question about the location and how it meets the needs of everybody. But at the same time, having a centralized facility that is going to create synergy and promote the arts and culture is the most important thing. So like most public decisions, it's going to come down to a balance of factors, and that's pretty much all I can say at this point on it. But I think that's why you need to study it a bit further in terms of those particular issues. But I take the point seriously, and hopefully our recommendations point to the need for a bit more study on it.